Hey guys, Godzilla here. Welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to be talking about some more Godzilla vs. Kong concept art. I've been holding up some of this concept art for the past couple of weeks, so I now have enough to make a video on. So here we are. So let's jump right into it. The first concept art that we have for today is that we have an awesome concept art of Godzilla and Kong fighting in Hong Kong, which is actually more of just Godzilla attacking Kong with his atomic breath and Kong dodging it, but nonetheless it is a very awesome concept art. Next we have a beautiful and complex concept art of the Hollow Earth. For me anyways, I think it's complex because it's kind of hard to tell what's going on, but I do enjoy me some Hollow Earth, and I do hope that we get some more Hollow Earth goodness in the future of the Monsterverse, but we will just have to see. Next we have concept art of Titanus Doug, which looks very awesome and somewhat similar to how I think Doug's full body design would look like. Next we have concept art of a Titan called Shimidah. At least that's how I think that's pronounced. So, Shimidah. And this Titan was unfortunately cut from Godzilla vs. Kong. I did talk about this Titan before in a previous video, but in this concept art that I actually said in the other video that I seen a concept art of how this Titan, I would imagine how it hunts. And in this concept art that is basically what is shown here, that I don't think it is the same concept art that I've seen, but it is the same thing that's going on here, is that the Titan lays its mouth completely flat on the ground, and then any prey that walks on its mouth, it shuts its mouth and eats it, and whatever, depending on the size of the prey. So I do think that is a pretty cool concept, though it does make sense why they decided to cut it from Godzilla vs. Kong, because it seemed pointless to include it in the movie because it just doesn't really add anything really. But I do think that it would work for like a separate Kong-focused movie. Like if they end up making another Kong movie, that this Titan would work pretty good in that movie. So hopefully they might add this Titan in there if they make Son of Kong or whatever they're planning on doing next. But next we have a awesome concept art of the Warbat with cut lightning abilities that are in the tail, or possibly throughout the entire body, but in the concept art it looks like it's only in the tail. But I think that it is really cool and would have been very awesome to see. But I think that what they did with the Warbat was pretty good as it is, though I wish we would have seen more of the Warbat, because I do think Warbat is one of my favorite Titans out of Godzilla and Kong, and the main Titans that we know, like Rodan, Mothra, and Ghidorah, like all the new original Titans. But next we have a concept art of the Hellhawk, which this concept also depicts the Hellhawk being a absolute giant, which is still very terrifying. But I like the way that they were in the film, because I think if they were this tall, then they would have been more of a challenge to Kong than, the humans, because they were more like centered on the Hellhawk and the humans, and not the Hellhawks and Kong, although Kong was obviously fighting the Hellhawks. But if they were this big, then they would have been way more of a challenge for Kong than the little dinky things that they were in the movie. So that is my thought on that. But next we have, and throughout the entire rest of this video, is we have the Mechagodzilla Concept Art. So the first thing that we have for the Mechagodzilla Concept Art is a VFX breakdown of Mechagodzilla versus Skullcrawler. I think it's absolutely amazing how this work is done. I've always been fascinated on how they do the VFX and all that kind of stuff, but now that I've actually done something similar to working on like something similar to what you do for film, which is 3D modeling, which isn't necessarily what you would do for film, but it's kind of, because it's, you know, have to do model renders and all that kind of stuff. It actually did make a 3D model of Mechagodzilla from Godzilla vs. Kong, a low poly 3D model of Mechagodzilla, which is why it doesn't look as good as professional models. But I'm still like in the more beginner stage of modeling, so it makes sense why it's not. But my teacher told me that it was surprisingly more like detailed and complex than what we were supposed to be going for, because this was part of our last project, because we were allowed to make whatever we wanted, whether it be like a original character or fan art. So I decided to do Mechagodzilla, and it took me about 2 weeks to do. Would have taken me longer, but my teacher was very helpful for that. But I'm not going to really get too much into it. But I did get an A on it, so that's good. But this is definitely not as, like, you know, a professional work as what professionals do, I guess. But I figured I would share that for a little thing. But I do plan on making like a whole video talking about that in the future, maybe, if I end up finding time to do it. But you get the idea that I do like doing this kind of stuff, so who knows what my future holds. But it's always nice to see how this kind of stuff is done, and because it's amazing work, because they make it look so realistic and everything, and it's just fascinating. But that is what it happens when you're a professional and you work as a team, because I would imagine it's like a whole team that does this and not just one person. But next we have Mechagodzilla Claw Hand Concept Art, which shows the claw hands in multiple poses, which is pretty cool. The claw hands were one of my favorite things about this new version of Mechagodzilla, because I don't know, just something different, and I think it looks pretty cool. I mean, at first I didn't really like it. I don't think really anyone liked it, and there's still people that don't like it at all. But after seeing it in action in the movie, I've come to love it. So I do like it, or love it, or definitely one of the two. And also, I learned from the artist that made this that there is also buzz saws on the fingers, which are actually part of the actual design for the movie, and not just like concept art of the hands, and you know, they're actually part of the hands for the movie, which I had no clue that was a fact. So that is a really cool to know that there is an extra damage being dealt on the from the fingers. Sorry, I struggled with that for a minute. But I do think that it is really cool. But next we have Mechagodzilla Scorpion Tail Concept. And also the tail tip was one of my favorite things about this new Mechagodzilla design, because I don't know, it's just something different, and I think it's really cool. And I also like the fact the blades can move around and turn into like a drill. I think that is really cool. But next we have a power source construction concept art for Mechagodzilla, which looks pretty cool. And I think this is like possibly a concept art of what they were possibly going to do, like before having, for the power source that was from the Hollow Earth. I don't know if this is like the power source from Hollow Earth or just regular power source for the robot. So that could have been like an original concept art, like they were actually going to have it put into Mechagodzilla and have construction for it and whatnot, instead of somehow digitally put into Mechagodzilla, because I have no clue how the hell that worked, but it is what it is. But I did hear from the artist that made this that he kind of just did this for like fun or whatever, so it might not have really meant anything. But next we have a concept art of Mechagodzilla's full body design, which I was able to save the GIF for, but it is unfortunately in low quality. But I do also have an image for it that is in pretty decent quality, so, but it's not as good as the GIF, like, you know, being able to see what is the difference in this Mechagodzilla concept art, because the major changes in this concept art is that Mechagodzilla had a tongue, which is pretty interesting, a extra joint in the wrist, which we did see before in a previous concept art, and the tail blades are kind of different, like positioned different, so that's also a thing to notice. But lastly, we have more concept art of version 1.0 Mechagodzilla, which I really like this concept art. It's definitely my favorite concept art out of all of the different Mechagodzilla concept art that didn't look like the Mechagodzilla that we got in the movie. And I did say that before when this was first shown in a video that I made of this concept art, that this was my favorite, but just repeating that in case anyone didn't see that video. But I do really like this concept art, and we also have a military green color version of this Mechagodzilla concept art, which looks pretty cool as well. But that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for this weekend for your weekly updates of figure and movie news, as usual. And also, I will be having an announcement soon that I'm not really going to get too much details on now, but just to let you know that there's going to be an announcement. And it's pretty big, or at least I think it is anyways, so stay tuned for that. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.